Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is exciting. So Emily Harold, our Director of Communications, thank you so much for bringing us together. I am here today with Ashley Klein at the KDV firm. Ashley, as you know, is an attorney extraordinaire in real estate matters in San Francisco and the Bay Area. Her firm KDV does lots of these seminars. And of course, Ashley is a partner there and also a partner with SFAR. Why? Because she is on our board of directors. Hello and welcome, Ashley Klein.
Thank you, Dan. It's so nice to be here. And we're finally providing the people what they want, a recorded webinar. Oh my gosh, they're going to be so happy.
So here's what's going on today. We are going to do 10 minutes, hopefully, and I think we will, 10 minutes starting in 1 minute, about what is happening with condo conversions. Remember the lottery system, right? Remember the fast track, right? Remember that everything, the moratorium, and it's all about to change. And let me just explain to everybody how this came about and back onto my radar. I was talking with Ashley Klein about her firm KDV and the work that they're doing in writing TIC agreements, right? And we were talking about what goes into a TIC agreement. And there's always an agreement within that agreement that says, hey, we as TIC partners will condo convert if and when that becomes available to us. But for so many of these 3 and 4 unit buildings in particular, that hasn't been available in probably what now, a decade, right? Right. Because of the moratorium. But that moratorium and that lottery system, remember the lottery system, oh, it's crazy. All of that is about to expire and change. And that made me say, oh, shoot. One, Ashley, do you guys do condo conversions? And what's the answer?
Yes, we are thrilled to be starting condo conversions for everybody.
Great. And then 2, the question was, well, what are the new rules? And so that's where we are today. Let me tell you the four things that we're going to cover today. They are, what is the moratorium and why do I care? Will the lottery return in 2024? Will I qualify for condo conversion? And finally, number 4, oh, almost there. What will it take to convert?
Perfect.
Great. Perfect. Let me say one other thing, just for fun for me. At some point, can you explain to me the concept of a lifetime lease? Because that is such a funny curveball. And even if it only applies very rarely, it's interesting.
Yes, we will definitely cover lifetime leases, Dan. And I think, you know, for KDV, we're gearing up for condo conversion. We'll call it season in 2024. We want to make sure we're ready. We want to make sure our new TIC agreements that we're putting together for people align with these new laws, and we want to be on the front lines of doing that. So, you know, we're delighted that we are doing TIC agreements now. We're super stoked to be in the condo conversion business. We have an entire transactions team here that are churning away, calling people back and getting these things done. So,
well, that will end the discussion about your firm. And now we're going to go into the law. And let me ask you this quick question. 2024 is not far away. It's a year and a half. Right. The condo conversion process itself takes time. Right. Is there work that can be done now to start this process?
The answer to that is yes. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of logistics, but there are things that if you want to be number 1, number 2 in line when the lottery comes back, you got to get in now for a consult because there are things you need to be doing, including occupying the property. Owner occupancy is going to be a requirement for those special buildings that are going to be able to go through conversion likely in 2024.
All right, well, let's go back to our outline. I promised us 4 issues. So first one is, what is the moratorium and why do I care?
Great question. So what is the moratorium? As I think most people who have clicked this link know, in 2013, we had a condo conversion moratorium put in place. We had lots of buildings in the lottery. And what happened was there were buildings that were stuck in the lottery. They were given time through, I believe, 2022 to convert. Those are what we call our expedited conversions. Those properties went through conversion or they didn't in some cases. And basically San Francisco has cleared its backlog. 2024, we believe, and we'll talk a little bit about this when we hit number 2, we believe condo conversion is going to be coming back. Now, our 2-unit buildings, if you are a fan of the 2-unit unicorns, right? Those have been happening.
And by the way, we call that our fast track.
Right. Our fast track, the lawyers call it expedited conversion, but yes, our fast track 2-unit unicorns They're happening. They've been happening. They're going to keep happening. They aren't going to change. So if you've been fast tracking through, you can keep doing that. Obviously, there are some still, those are some still kind of complicated situations about how those happen. But if you need help with that, fast track bypass conversions, let's go.
Let me just throw out what the lay agent needs to know about the fast track. It's for 2 units in San Francisco. What we're talking about today is only San Francisco. Both units need to be owner occupied. They cannot one be occupied by a husband and a wife or a husband and a husband. The spouses can't do that. My wife and I thought about that, but can't do it. They each have to own at least 25%. They must have lived in the property for at least a year before this conversion. They have to do certain safety upgrades, but they don't have to bring the whole place up to code. And of course, there's surveys and maps and all kinds of things. There are a few units that have a scarlet letter thrown on them and are no longer eligible based on prior buyouts, prior evictions, and prior Ellis acts. But those you need to discuss with your attorney.
Yes. And don't forget, no illegal units in those 2 units, right? If you have a third illegal or an ADU, it's not a 2 unit.
It's going to ruin you. So if you have a third unit, the 2 units plus a third unit, that third unit's going to ruin you. And if you think you can just pull out the kitchen and call it a day, probably not. Talk to a lawyer, because the city is smarter than that. They do a little research.
Yeah, we have land use. They will help you.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Do you qualify for a condo conversion? This is the question we started answering all the time now, Dan. So we're talking a lot about that. We're wondering who qualifies, who doesn't qualify. I'll skip to the chase. Here's the big point that I want people to take away. It's going to be the 3 to 4 unit buildings that are in that sweet spot that are going to qualify. That's what's going to matter. If you have a 3 to 4 unit legal units, I'm not talking about a single family with 3 illegal units in the basement. That makes my skin crawl. I'm very scared. I'm talking about people with 3 to 4 legal units. It's possible that you're going to be eligible in 2024.
Okay. I like the possible. Based on what is that possibility? So
Well,
are the rules already established, or are we waiting for our Board of Supervisors to finalize something?
we are waiting, unfortunately. So the way the current subdivision code reads is that it is coming back in 2024, sort of dependent on some housing that being built and some other statistics. But let's just say, for the argument of this little brief intro, it's coming back in 2024, but the Board of Supervisors is going to be passing rules. We have an idea of what they are. Here's what I think it's going to take for the 3 to 4 unit people.
Okay.
First, it's going to require owner occupancy for all but one of the last, all but one for 3 years dating backwards from the lifting of the moratorium. So that's very complicated, but here's how it works.
So when you say all but one, you mean if we have a 4 unit building, 3 of them must have been owner occupied for the last 3 years from the date that we lift the moratorium.
Exactly. So
Okay.
2021, if it's 2024, when the moratorium is going to lift, you have to be in there starting in 2021.
Now, is there a way to delay your conversion until 2025 because you had only been in there for 2 years? Or is that 2021 a magic date? If you already hadn't been living there, you're screwed.
I don't think, well, we don't have the rules yet, but I don't think you're going to be screwed.
Okay.
I think you're just going to have to wait a year.
Okay.
But we do have clients who have been in our pipeline for the last year, knowing they came in early to do their consult. They know.
Okay.
The owner, the second piece that we should keep in mind is the owner only has to be an owner at the time of application for conversion. So if you want to get into a sticky situation.
Oh, you could sell to one of your tenants.
Right. Now, I don't usually like that because it's not a fun time and the owner usually ends up selling at quite a big loss.
Yeah,
but
sure. We call it a discount.
Yeah, let's call it, that's a nice way to put it. But let's just say you want to do that. Yes, we're able to do that. Maybe it'll be worth it for you to be able to convert the building. So occupancy is occupancy. It doesn't matter what their status was on title at the time.
And is this one reason the Board of Supervisors is willing to do this? Because previously they had just been anti-condo conversion.
I think so. I mean, it's a really good question. I think it's a great thing to just hold for a second and
Sure.
talk about lifetime leases, because I think
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's the key. But I'll just wrap up by saying, if you have a tenant in possession and you think you're going to be one of those, let's say you have 3 occupied units and 1 tenant occupied unit,
Yeah.
'tis the season for a buyout, right?
Mhm.
Let's get the buyout done.
Mhm.
You have your occupancy, and then your tenant isn't holding you up for a huge buyout come condo conversion time in a year and a half.
Or now we're going to ask you this question, lifetime lease. So are you saying that if we have a 4-unit building, 3 are occupied, 1 is tenant occupied, that when we convert this thing, that tenant gets a lifetime lease?
I think almost certainly that's going to be true. It is not yet written out, but I can't imagine a world in which that is not going to be the case, that the tenant will have to be offered a lifetime lease. Remember, the expedited conversion process did require lifetime leases. When you went through expedited 3 to 4 unit building conversion, we did have to offer lifetime leases to all the tenants who were in possession.
Are you familiar with the term holy camoly?
Yeah, holy camoly indeed, right?
And so that lifetime lease is established at whatever rent they're paying with the annual 2%-ish increases or whatever.
Yeah, with
it
the
is?
really crappy rent increase options. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's bad.
Can you imagine, by the way, what little incentive the landlord will have to make their home more nice over the years? I mean, this is just an ironic situation, right?
It's definitely ironic. What it leads to, Dan, in practice, what I learned during the expedited conversion process is it leads to insanely high buyouts, right? Almost every tenant who's facing the option of a lifetime lease gets bought out in the 6 figures.
Okay. All right. All right. So we did that. Now I think we sort of were in the will I qualify, right? So
Yep.
we talked about that. We talked about 3 to 4 units. The 2 units are still going to do the fast track, as I like to call it.
They're going to fast track.
What if the 2 unit had that scarlet letter and didn't qualify for the fast track? Might this open up another option for them?
Maybe, but probably not, because keep in mind, one thing we have in the subdivision code is we have that we need to keep our buyout eviction history clean. Usually the way you screw up your fast track conversion is the same way you're going to screw up your bypass conversion, by doing a no fault eviction of some sort of a disabled tenant or elderly tenant.
Protected, as we like to say.
I know, but it's not correct. So
okay, but nonetheless, that's
let us. I know that's what we all say, but I've been working for 10 years to try to fix it.
It's not going to happen.
I know, but I've been on tour. I'm still on tour right now. Protected, it relates to owner move-in evictions only. There, slipped it into this one too. But I think, we're going to be careful on buyout history. Here's the deal. If you are thinking about engaging with a tenant on anything and you might want to preserve condo conversion, it's time to get to council and get some advice, because there are careful ways that we can do this to make them clean, but we got to be careful.
Okay, so that's really important. And so let me just emphasize that, and then we're going to finish it with two little issues. All right, so emphasizing that if you hear that your client is interested in having discussions with a tenant about getting them out, and this, of course, has always been the case of in preparation for a sale, right? But now we're just talking about in general, your client wants to have discussions with it about getting a tenant out, right? Those discussions must start with an attorney, because even approaching the tenant and asking them, are you interested in a buyout? We want to give you $1 million is unlawful unless you have first served them with some very specific paperwork in a very specific manner. So please don't do that. And as an agent, you can never, ever do that on behalf of your clients. That's property management work, or that's attorney work. You are not either. Most of you don't have E&O for either of those. It would be a very bad idea. Okay, that's the end of the public service announcement. Let's go to our last 2 issues. One is, if and when this changes, are these 3 and 4 units automatically eligible if they meet these qualifications, or are they going back into a lottery, and do they have to hope that their number is picked?
It's a great question. We're not sure. So we're going to have to wait and kind of figure that out as we go. We think that, first in time will be good. We think being first will help, but obviously the city is going to be deciding this.
Is it possible to just put a limit and say the first 1,000 units?
Anything's possible.
Okay.
You have
How
no
many
right to condo conversion.
How many thousands of units are out there waiting for condo conversion?
Yeah, I have no way to know.
Okay.
I would imagine, I knew the statistic. I don't currently know.
I had heard a number 18,000.
That sounds,
You know,
that sounds likely.
Yeah.
Of 3 to 4 units that are just sitting there. So we will see. I think that this process will be a little bit more straightforward than the old lottery system because there are going to be all these standards required prior to even entering.
When do we have some idea of when this might happen? This may be a better question for Mary and Jay in our public affairs division, but.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to start talking about it a lot more in the next 6 to 10 months. I mean, I think it's coming. I imagine that this won't be the only time that I appear for SFAR and talk about this.
All right, then we have 1 more minute left, and
Yes.
Let's do this. So let's say that your 3 or 4 unit building does become eligible because it meets these requirements and you're ready to do it. What is the process like? So I know there's city's fees and there's expert fees and there's attorney fees and there's some building inspection. Sum it up for me.
Yeah, so we're looking, I'm going to check for owner occupancy. I'm going to prep everyone, for $10,000 to $15,000 city fees, expert fees in the 10 to 12 range, surveyors, plumbers, electricians, bringing things up to code, attorney's fees for RC, CNRs, all sorts of you're going to need documents. We're going to have sort of different categories depending on how you're converting and price those accordingly. You're going to have to go through building inspections and, you're going to be sort of in this lottery, right? So those are going to be your steps. Again, hopefully we'll get some regulations on exactly how this is going to play out, but we don't have them yet.
Would you be surprised if a 3 or 4 unit building in pretty good shape got away with as little as $50,000 for this conversion? Is that?
I think that's right. I think that's about right. Yeah.
And would you likewise be surprised if a 3 to 4 unit building ended up costing 100 to 150?
I can totally imagine that a lot of these buildings have deferred maintenance, deferred electrical, all that stuff. So,
okay. All right. So we at least have gotten us a ballpark.
Yes, I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I think, again, as these come back into the market, though, it's going to increase market value for them. So I think it'll be worth it if you can do it.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, just to be clear about this, the incentives are big. Even though the whole TIC process is much better than it was, you still want to be a condo.
You definitely want to be a condo.
Yeah. All right. Well, look at us. Huh?
Did we do it?
I don't know if we did it, but we did a great job. Emily, do you think we did a good job?
That was perfect. Way to go, team.
All right. Well, we're going to declare this a success. We're going to say thank you so much to Ashley Klein and to Emily Harold for bringing us together. And as always, to our realtors, Ashley and I are volunteers on your board of directors. We are grateful to work for you. But remember, we don't get paid. So every so often, what the hell? Say thank you. Okay.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.